Earthor Willowthorn watched as the Highborn Prince and the majority of his forces began to follow the ancient reptiles. The Highborn had been using the clearing next to the Fongren River as a fallback site for a while now, and had entered the Bloodwood numerous times, hacking trees and hunting for food, without regards to the occupants of the forest. This did not sit well with the Forest Prince. He maintained his vigil for the next few hours, until he was sure the main force was gone. He motioned to his druid counterpart, Nalera, to follow, and the two made their way past the Sylvan sentries and to a small grotto. "Is everything in place, druid?" Earthor said. "Yes, my prince. The forest awaits your command." The druid responded, eager to rid the woods of those who would take from her flock. "Then the time has come for us to strike. It has been far too long that we have allowed the interlopers to take from our homes without retribution. My father would have us talk to the Highborn first, but I have watched this Victus. I have heard his words and seen his actions against those who he feels opposes him. Father has not. He needs to be driven from our woods and take his war with him," Earthor said, watching the forest begin to move around him. The Bloodwood has come alive, and its anger was about to be released upon the unsuspecting intruders. All right, another narrative and another new army enters the story. Tonight we have the Sylvan Elves versus the Highborn Elves in a 3,000 point narrative battle with the breakthrough objective in place. So, got to get more scoring units into your opponent's deployment zone. Sadly, I do not think this particular objective plays very well to the Sylvan Elves' strengths, but we'll see where it goes. Let's go ahead and get into deployment. Alright, so on the left we start with a unit of 5 Briar Maidens. Next to them are a unit of 6 Thicket Beasts with a champion. Then there is a small unit of 10 Sylvan Archers. In the center forest is a unit of 15 Dryads. With them is the Dryad Matriarch. She is a wizard apprentice to the lore of Druidism with 2 learned spells. And she has the Scarred Bark upgrade on her. Next to that is another unit of 10 Sylvan Archers. And then on the other side of that is a unit of 25 Forest Guard with full command. And with them is the Lord of the Forest, the Chieftain. He's their battle standard bearer, and he has the Sacred Spear of Keteron, and the Talisman of Shielding on him. And way over here on the side is a unit of 9 Pathfinders scouting in at that angle. Alright, so on the Highborn Elves side, starting with the left, we have 2 Lion Chariots. Then there is a unit of 15 Sea Guard with Musician and Standard. With them is Lady Sarah, a mage with 3 spells. And I think she's an apprentice, I guess, from the look of this list. Next to that is a unit of 15 Swordmasters with full command. Hanging out with them is Lord Fenry of House Whitethorn, the Commander Battle Standard Bearer. He has the Hero's Sword, Armor, Fortune, Lucky Shield, and the Fleet Officer upgrade. And then there is another 15-man Sea Guard with just Musician and Standard. And then over here at the far end, we have 1 Sky Sloop with the Sky Reaper on it, and a Fire Phoenix. Alright, so the Highborn Elves, they were actually kind of going back and forth a little bit, putting units down, but ended up being that the Highborn Elves get the first turn, and they push up reasonably aggressively. He definitely wants to get that Phoenix over on the flank. I don't think that the Highborn player feels like the Sylvans have any real answer to the Phoenix, and he's probably right. So he just needs to get around to that flank and start causing all sorts of havoc. And then we go into magic, and he gets the Scorching Salvo off 24-inch range, which hits all of these units with the blue dice in front of them. That's the number of hits they took. So he's just stripping elves off and dryads off left, right, and down the center before they even get to go. Then he opens up with some shooting, I think, and does a few more wounds. So it's rough. The Sylvan Elves are losing a lot of stuff they can't afford to lose yet. And then the Sky Sloop does some shooting and looks like it peels off 4 of the elf spearmen he has on the right flank. And then the shooting from the 2 units in the middle hit the archers and is just thinning them down. I mean, he's lost half his archers almost already by the start of turn 1 for him. So Sylvan Elves go. He decides to move up out of the forest because he's taking some punishment from the fact that he's just getting blasted. And I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll have to check this. I don't remember if models are flammable in forests or if that's just fields. I think we were playing it that way, and that might be wrong. Either way, the Sylvan Elves can't really afford to stay back at range, which is really kind of a sad thing because the Highborn Elves here have him just outranged, and it's kind of sad. So he finally gets some magic off, decides to go ahead and buff some dryads, so he might have some by the time this actually gets into a fight, and lands the +2 toughness. Then he starts doing some shooting, and actually doesn't do bad. He peels off a unit, or a rank out of the Swordmaster's unit, which is certainly necessary. And then we go to Highborn Elves turn 2, and the Highborn Elves get 2 good charges with the Lion Chariots into the tree guys. I don't remember what they're called, thicket monsters or whatever. So that's going to be potentially very messy. The Phoenix swoops by and burns off another rank plus from the Spearman. And then during Magic Phase, Cascading Fire goes off. I think he actually may have tried to charge with the Swordmasters and failed, so that's why he's where he is. But Cascading Fire on the Swordmasters goes off with a miscast, and it's going to cost the Sea Guard unit here a total of 6 models for the privilege. But he gets it off, so then he fireballs the unit, killing 3 more of these archers. And then during shooting, the spear or the Sea Guard kill the last of the archers on this side. Then we go into combat, and he ends up doing the Sylvan Elves end up doing 2 wounds to each of the chariots, but the chariots kill 2 of the thicket guys, and I think the thicket guys lose this, but it might only be by 1, but he ends up sticking on the leadership role. So we go to Sylvan Elves turn 2. The spearmen try to charge the Sky Sloop. Sky Sloop chooses to flee. The sisters over here charge his mages unit, who choose to flee and end up in the middle of there, running in the opposite direction. This is where the archers, or the spearmen end up after their movement for that failed charge. The spell casting goes a little bit better this time. He gets off Oaken Throne and +3 toughness on the unit of dryads. So they're like tough 7, and actually pretty scary at this point. Then some shooting goes on. I think from the unit that's hidden in the forest here, that's just off of the bottom right of the screen, kills 1 more Swordmaster. And then the archers from this side kill another Swordmaster, so 2 more down. Then over here, the Lion Chariots do what Lion Chariots do. They only suffer 1 more wound on the one that ended up overrunning and running down the thicket guys. The other one turns around to get a good flank look at the maidens over here. And then we go to Highborn Elves turn 3, and the chariot charges the maidens. They flee, run through the archers, and escape as the chariot just is going to kind of fumble forward a couple inches. Over here, he moves the other chariot around so that he's got a good flank charge on the dryads if he needs it. And, I didn't show this picture earlier, but the sloop rallies. The Phoenix dances back and forth and burns off another rank of spearmen, it looks like. And then his wizard rallies as well. So you can see the wizards are rallied. Everything else moves up. I don't think he charges the dryads this turn because he doesn't want to deal with that toughness 7. So then he starts going into magic, drops the enveloping embers on the scouts here, which does each one of them a strength 3 wound. He kills all 4 of them, but they don't panic. And then he fireballs one more just for good measure. Then during shooting, he kills almost all of the archers. There's only 1 left in that little unit. And then Sylvan Elves turn 3, and it is charge time. Okay, I guess there was 2 archers left in that unit. I just couldn't see them. But yeah, the dryads go slamming into the front of the swordmasters. And his spearmen do not charge. He actually just moves them up to within an inch of the sea guard to stop them from countercharging the dryads if things don't go his way this turn. And then those last 2 archers do a march to try and block the chariot. I don't know if it actually succeeds, given what's going on and where they are, but it was a good thought. Over here, the maidens come running to try and get out of line of sight of the... Oh, because they rallied and they get because they're like fast calves, so they get to move after they rally, I think is how it works. But they moved over here, but did not quite have the movement to get 100% out of the arc of the chariot, which seems bad for them. And then during magic phase, the dryads get up +3 toughness again. The Highborn Elves are just... I mean, he's throwing every dice he can to get rid of it, and he's just missing it by a point or 2 every time. So that's going to be bad for those swordmasters. Then he also gets the strength of stone, I think, or strength, earth and strength, whatever it is. Now here's a question that I didn't even think to have until after we played this. I know you can draw line of sight from the impassable terrain, which I think they were treating this rock thing as impassable. So he was within range there, but I don't know if that allows you to shoot that out of combat or not. So that if that is not the case, somebody clarify that for me. I would appreciate it. But yeah, so we go into combat. He actually still manages to take down 4 dryads, but the dryads kill I think they kill all of the swordsmen of the swordmasters. So only his BSB is left, and then his BSB outruns the dryads, who go all of 3 inches. So not only did he not catch the BSB for the unit, he also failed to overrun into the wizard's unit, which was really what he absolutely wanted to do there. So we go to Highborn Elves turn 4, and it starts off with the chariot making his charge against the maidens, who stand and shoot with their poison throwing weapons and end up killing the chariot before it gets to them. And then this was kind of a weird setup. Things are kind of moved around, but he had the spearmen right in front of the Elves Sea Guard. So the spearmen charge the Sea Guard. Or sorry, the Sea Guard charge the spearmen. They stay. The Phoenix charges the spearmen from the back. The spearmen flee. So they run through the Seaguard take their dangerous terrains and end up behind the unit. So then he chooses the order in which to resolve the charges, being his Seaguard first. And the way we played it was the Seaguard charged straight forward, because that's the direction that they were, and you can't wheel 180 degrees to get a charge off. The reason why we need to confirm whether this actually works this way is because by doing so, that left enough room for the Phoenix to land behind the unit of spearmen, or the unit of spearmen. So he was able to complete the charge, and actually touch the spearman unit and destroy them with the Phoenix. Very complicated. I don't know if that's actually how it's supposed to work or what, but that's kind of how we played it, because we couldn't figure out another way that would make it work that wouldn't turn into a rules debate for forever. So if anybody happens to know that one for sure, let me know, and I'd appreciate it as well. He also charges the last two archers with his remaining lion chariot, and his BSB rallies, and his unit with the mage in it runs to get out of line of sight of the dryads. Obviously, the chariot is going to run over he didn't get any magic off this turn, so the chariot runs over the two archers. No big surprise there. So we go to Sylvan Elves turn 4, and the dryads run at the BSB again, and he stands there because he doesn't want to run the risk of fleeing. Also, he does a long bomb charge with the sisters, or the maidens, to try and pick up the small unit of Seaguard that are left with the wizard. And then during magic phase, he pops off the +3 toughness again, which drops a miscast, which doesn't kill too many of the dryads. The downside is the miscast was large enough for his caster to lose half of her wounds, and she does so. So we go into combat. Over here, he tries to challenge the Briar Maiden, or the Briar caster says, screw that, goes to the back. The dryads manage to do a single wound to the BSB, which is enough to cause him to break. He flees, and again the dryads just are not rolling very well for pursuit, and they don't catch him. So this is kind of where that looks again. And went backwards. And in doing so, did a single dryad wound with the fire going over them. Other than that, you can see his other Seaguard unit is running to the opponent's deployment zone to score points for the objective. Over here, we do some... I don't know if this is shooting or magic. It ultimately doesn't matter. One elf dies. They don't panic. So over here, we go into the Sylvan Elves turn, and the Sylvan Elves, the dryads, decide... I gotta play big or go home, so he charges into the Phoenix in such a way that if he can kill the Phoenix, he will overrun into the BSB. Pretty much that's his only chance to win this, or to really score any points. So that's what he's looking at. We go into combat because there's really nothing else going on. He fails for the first time all game in Magic to get off the toughness buff, so he's got nothing. Inflicts one wound on the Phoenix. The Phoenix inflicts a few back. The dryads lose this, but they stick. But at this point, the Sylvan Elf player kind of sees the writing on the wall and throws in the towel. Pull back, Lord Fenry called to his men, horns trumpeting for the withdrawal. Fenry had accomplished holding back the advancing woods as his prince had commanded. This is where he would leave it. As the elves retreated, Fenry took one last look at the Sylvan Elves and their treekin, giving a simple, almost apologetic bow as they left. He didn't wish to confront them, and saw foolishness in fighting his own race. His prince had commanded, however, and he obeyed the chain of command absolutely. Your lordship, his guard called. "The prince's forces are ahead. Shall we inform him of the Sylvans' attack?" Fenrir's face turned slightly with a look of sadness. "No. Let the woods be as they are. We do not need to fight more enemies. Let us forgive this slight and go home." Alright, so obviously with the Sylvan Elves surrender, we have a major Highborn Elves victory here. It was interesting to see the Sylvans on the board. I was really surprised at how little shooting he had brought overall. I think if he had brought a little bit more, he could have been in a much better situation. I still hold to the fact that pyromancy rocks the face off of elves. Doesn't really matter what flavor they are, apparently. It does bad things to them. And, I mean, 2 lion chariots are hard to deal with. Really, the only thing I could say for the Sylvan Elf players, he might have been more aggressive with the thicket beasts or whatever they are. But even that, I mean, it's hard to eat 2 of those lion chariots in the face with anything I can think of. And he really couldn't afford... He didn't have enough shooting to focus on both the great sword, or the sword masters, and those chariots, so one of them was going to get through. Whether he chose the right one or not, I don't know. Maybe if I played the game the same thing again, I would do something different. Maybe not. I don't really know. But Michael is, I mean, playing nothing but Highborn Elves all the time. He's getting good with them. And he had just enough luck to make up for where he wasn't good with them. So he did solidly here. It was nice, though, to see the Dryads just completely wreck face on the Swordmasters. I mean, admittedly, it took several spells and getting them up to 7 toughness to make that happen. But it still looks impressive to me. I'll be interested to see where Skip goes with the Sylvan Elves, both in terms of his playstyle, because I think he borrowed this idea from someone on the internet, and I don't think it worked very well for him, so he may switch it up a little bit. I also am interested to see sort of on whose side the Sylvan Elves come in the narrative, so... definitely looking forward to that. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was for all you Sylvan Elf fans out there. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as it might for the Sylvan Elves. Because for some reason, there's like Sylvan Elves in a battle report gets a crazy number of views. So if you guys have any suggestions on the Sylvan Elves that you think could help Skip out, definitely throw them in the comments below. Otherwise, we will... see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody.